book 21 of 2020 was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. So this was a book club nomination, and I don't think I would ever have read it myself if it hadn't been for book club. It's rated quite highly, like 4 and 5 stars. I wouldn't say that it's as good as that, so I wouldn't believe all the hype about it. What I could say that's positive about it is that Delia Owens is very good at describing kind of like the marshland and the wildlife. It's very immersive, you feel like you're there, and there was quite a few things that I wasn't aware of. So for example, some of the birds that she describes, I had to kind of like search on the internet and see what they kind of looked like. And she also describes a lot of kind of food that I wasn't aware existed, that's quite common for the characters and where they're situated to have. But obviously, you know, like grits, I think it was called, and what was the other one? Backbone. I had to kind of like search for what they were because I wasn't sure. It's quite good as well because it's got some kind of sprinklings of philosophy in there. So at one point, Kaya's learning to read and she says something like she didn't realise that one sentence could have so much meaning in it, and I thought that was quite poignant. And I think he's called Tate, maybe. It's a long time ago since I read it now. He says something like, oh, they don't all have that much meaning. I thought that was quite nice, and that happens like a couple of times throughout. And the framing was really good. So the framing is kind of like in different years, and it's kind of going back and forth from present day to in the past, and there's kind of like a whodunnit murder kind of mystery. So it's you know, builds a suspense, makes you want to continue reading, and it's not like, I would say that it's not obvious because you're reading it and you're thinking, oh, it could be this or it could be that and it could be this. So it does. I didn't think that it was obvious who it was, but in my book club a few people were saying that it was obvious. But I think it's obvious, but then you question yourself if it is that obvious, maybe. But I don't want to give too much away. I did find when I was reading it that I wanted to kind of put it down a lot. I wasn't like enthralled. I didn't want to like consume it from start to finish. I was getting a bit bored and I wanted to kind of just stop and put it down. So I think that for that reason, it stopped my enjoyment of it, because I was just like, oh, I've got to carry on reading it. And the characterisation of Kaya is quite good in the sense that she starts off as a young child and she gets older, and there is a progression and she does change. But then there's a bit of an issue with it because she is isolated and secluded from everybody else, but yet she seems to develop into an adult very easily. And I don't think that somebody who's isolated that much would be able to develop those social skills as quickly as she does. There's an aspect of it where she's got quite black and white thinking. So for example, one of the characters treats her quite badly and she's very much like, right, I'm done with them, which is what you kind of do when you're younger. But then when you get older, you kind of see like the grey areas, and this particular character, you can kind of understand his behaviour because of the contextualisation of what's happening to him. He's growing up and he's not really kind of not understanding, but I suppose like Kaya wouldn't understand it because she's not come out of the marshlands, and so she doesn't have that ability to contextualise it and understand his behaviour. So that's kind of presented very well because she obviously doesn't. She's just wrote him off completely, and actually he is quite a nice guy, apart from him behaving in a kind of childish way. But then the way that she kind of holds herself and expresses herself when she's older, I don't think she would have got to that point. I think she would have needed a lot more socialisation. And then that got me thinking about the characterisation, because in the end, when you find out kind of like what's happened, it seems a bit farcical that Kaya would have been able to do it. And so I was kind of a bit like, I don't think that she would be able to premeditate something. I'm not going to spoil it and tell you what it is, but that she would be able to premeditate and plan and kind of as what it was assuming that it would be. Okay, spoiler alert, pause if you don't want to spoil it, but essentially it would have required her to get on a bus with a disguise and then get on the bus again with another disguise, and that just doesn't seem like she would have the ability to be able to do that. And then if it wasn't that kind of farcical, far-fetched thing that was presented by the lawyer, then what else could it have been, because there didn't seem to be any other kind of explanation for it. So yeah, I'll leave it there. If you read it, you'll know what I mean. And also that got me thinking about the other characters. So there's a character called Pearl who seems to be, it's odd because Kaya is dating Chase, and Chase is horrible to her, but yet he always wears like this shell necklace that she gave him. And so it doesn't really make sense that he would be that horrible to her, but yet still wear the necklace. It just didn't seem to make sense to me, that. And then he ends up marrying Pearl, and Pearl doesn't seem to be bothered that he's like getting with Kaya. And it just seemed a little bit far-fetched how they were behaving. And then also kind of like the mother leaves when she's younger, and it's kind of like she never comes back for them, and it's explained as because the dad will beat the children or whatever. But the mum knows that the dad goes AWOL every so often, so she would have been able to come back and check on the kids and make sure that they were okay. But they all disappear, and even her brother only comes back like later on. And it's kind of like, why didn't he come back sooner? She's been on her own the entire time. So the characterisation just didn't fit for me. It almost seemed like the characters were for plot devices rather than actual real characters. So these people are behaving in ways that I don't think is genuine to them as people based on what I've been told by the author. So it was almost like, just to advance the plot, and they were actual real characters. So they were behaving in kind of inauthentic ways. So whilst the wildlife descriptions and stuff are great, the plot's a bit farcical, and you've got to kind of suspend your belief to kind of, go along with it. And the characterisation is really lacking. So for that reason, I didn't think it was that great, and I wouldn't recommend it for anybody to read and think, yeah, like this will be amazing, because there was just so many problems with it. And like I said before, I was putting it down all the time. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend it.